what are the rules of Jewish warfare? Hello, you're watching the Tov Jewish News channel. My name is Michael Wilensky, and my guest today is Rabbi Simon Jacobson, author of the Meaningful Life Center channel. Rabbi, great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
I want to ask you, why do Jews start wars? What are the reasons for which a Jewish state can start a war?
Interestingly, Jews don't start wars. We actually hate war. Anything that's connected to bloodshed or anybody's being hurt is something that we always avoid, because God created the world to build the world, not to be violent and not to fight wars. The only time we'll fight a war is in defense. When someone's attacking you, you can't just be quiet. You have to protect yourself and your children and your family. If you look in Jewish history, Jews never started wars. They always responded. Even in Israel, when you talk about after 1948. So to defend ourselves, we will do whatever it takes. We won't be just sitting around and being a target. We'll do whatever it takes and build strong armies to protect ourselves from our enemies. The exception I will mention is you have what's called the Melchemet Mitzvah. Back in the time of King David HaMelech, so there it was a direct command from God to him that to do a Melchemet, that he had to do a war. But there also he was conquering land that belonged to the Jewish people, Israel. And even there, I must mention that God says to David HaMelech, King David, you cannot build my Beit HaMikdash because you have blood on your hands. Even though David did it in the right way, but blood is always a negative thing. Your son, Shlomo HaMelech, he will build the Beit HaMikdash because he did not fight any wars. So, in short, B'kitzur, we don't want wars, we don't like wars, we'd rather have only peace. The biggest blessing is V'nasati Shalom Ba'aretz, peace, peace, peace. The whole Torah came to bring peace to the world.
How should Jewish soldiers treat their enemies? What are the laws of actual practical warfare?
In Jewish law, it says that if you surround a city in time of war of your enemy, you should always leave one side open so they can escape. You show me one army in existence that has that. You'll let them escape. Because if they don't want to fight, by all means, let them run away. So even when you surround a city, you always leave open something for them to leave. In other words, it's a compassionate element. I just have to make it clear. War is still very painful. And war is, there's casualties, there's deaths, and there's losses, and there's blood. But whatever we can possibly do according to Jewish law is to protect life, not just the life of the Jews and the Israelis, but also the life of our enemies, if possible. But obviously there are times, especially now we see, for example, if your enemy uses innocent civilians and children as human shields, then obviously that's part of the war, and you really have no choice.
I would like you to give us a small gist of how a Jewish state should treat the question of hostages, and to what lengths should we go to free them.
There's nothing greater than freeing someone who is kidnapped or taken hostage. On the other hand, what happens if by freeing the hostage you pay so much money that it's an incentive for them to take more hostages? This is actually a question that's asked. So what's said is the following. Let us say a person says, okay, I want to have so much and so much money, and I'll release your family member as a hostage. The family does not have the money. What happens if the family does have the money? Are they allowed to give it? Because that would create an incentive that they would take other hostages, and many people would not be able to pay, and ultimately the hostage would be killed. So it's not a black and white issue here. You have to weigh these two factors. Here, unfortunately, the situation we're in, it seems like it's an incentive. It becomes part of the strategy of Hamas, for instance, or others like them. That was their plan, because they know that Israel will do anything to save and protect the hostages. So that's becomes part of their war plan. Now, at the same time, it's very painful. What do we tell the families? What do you tell? We're sensitive and compassionate to the hostages and their families. So I don't envy anyone in that position. But if you ask me to frame it, that's what it comes down to.